the first thing we can probably start off, you want to talk about World War II?
Yeah.
Sure. So, when were you first were you, did you volunteer yourself or did you get assigned?
No, I was a draftee.
Yeah.
So I was drafted in, I went down for my physical and everything. Then they induct you right away,
Yeah.
And that was February 6th, 1943,
Yeah.
that I was inducted.
Yeah.
Then they gave us a week, and then the following week, we were on a train and headed to Fort Devens, Mass.
Mm-hmm.
We went up to Fort Devens, Mass. It was 32 below zero, and we were in civilian clothes at that point.
Huh.
This was on a Saturday. And we went from Saturday until Monday before we were issued any army clothes.
Yeah.
And then within 2 days or so, we were put on a train and shipped to Texas. So we went from freezing cold
Yeah.
down to at that point, February in Texas. It's not hot, it's not cold, it's sort of moderate, but
Yeah.
they do have cold spells.
Yeah.
And so the barracks at that time consisted of one big long barracks, and then on the end of each barracks was a cold burning stove.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd have one here, and that would heat this area, one on the other end, and would heat the other area. If you were in the middle, if I get it, you'd freeze to death.
Yeah.
So I was in Texas. I went down there and joined the 86th Infantry Division, 342nd Regiment, H Company, which is a heavy weapons company. So I went through all of basic training, and then division maneuvers, and then into Louisiana for Army maneuvers. And then from Army maneuvers in Louisiana, we went into Camp Polk in Louisiana for, I don't know, a month or so. Then we shipped back to Camp House in Texas, which was our original. So I was only there maybe a month or so when they started breaking up the division, because they needed recruits, seasoned recruits for Europe.
Yeah.
Because they were getting all beat up in Italy at the time. So half of the division went to Europe, the other half went to the Pacific. I was in the group that went to the Pacific. So I was shipped out of Texas, Camp Eustis, Texas, to Fort Ord in California. And then in California we had additional training, climbing up and down ships, the rope ladders.
Yeah.
We'd have to practice climbing up and down there and different other maneuvers. So, and then from California, I was shipped down to San Francisco. San Francisco picked up the ship, got on the ship, which I don't remember the name of now, and headed off into the Pacific on my great tour of the Pacific. So the first, it took us like 2 weeks to go from California to New Caledonia. That was the island we stopped at. And that had a replacement center there. So we were there about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, and then everybody was assigned to different units. And I was shipped up to the island of Espiritu Santos, which is in the New Hebrides group. And at that time, this is the South Pacific, New Caledonia was like here, New Hebrides here, Espiritu Santos, and then Guadalcanal there.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they first invaded Guadalcanal, Espiritu Santos Island was the forward base,
Mm-hmm.
their supply base. But by the time I got there, the Guadalcanal had been secured, and the base was still operating, but not full time.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up there as security, island security. Let's see, I was there about, I don't know, maybe 5 months, 6 months. When we went back to Hawaii, we were shipped into Hawaii. And we stayed at the Army area there, which was a permanent Army Army base with a quadrangle like this.
Mm-hmm.
And there were buildings on all four, and then the parade ground was in the middle.
Hmm.
So a whole regiment could stay there and practice by themselves, without going on. So we were there. Oh, and then they changed us over from infantry to MPs.
Mm-hmm.
And we trained on the island on Hawaii, and directing traffic, doing this, doing that, different things and everything. And suddenly we're combat MPs.
Mm-hmm.
So I was here from the 1st of November till the end of December in 1944. 44? Yeah, 44. We shipped out, and they sent us to the island of Guadalcanal. We were there for the island, of course, it had been secured and everything. And we were there still doing MP duty and going through different routines and procedures, because we would be handling civilians and POWs.
Mm-hmm.
So from New Hebrides, from Guadalcanal, we went up, shipped up to the island of Provulo, which was in the an island chain, and that was the headquarters, the main island for the 1st Marine Division.
Mm-hmm.
1st Marines would go out, they'd hit an island here, secure it, and then go back to Provulo. That was their main rest area, like.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, they go out another operation, seize out other islands, then back to Peru. So we ended up with them on the island of Peru. Now, being the Army and the Marines, they just didn't mix.
Mm-hmm.
We had no problem with all the Marines. It was the young snips out of boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
That were shipped in as replacements, and they thought they were God,
Yeah.
So I remember they set us up in an area on this end of the island, away from the main base, so there wouldn't be any problems between Army and Navy, Army and Marines. So they set us up with tents and everything, and the first night we're in there, suddenly everybody started waking up screaming. They set us, they didn't count on high tide. So we had all this water coming in, and when everything was all just soaked and everything. So we stayed there for, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. Then come on, got on a transport, and we were headed for the island of Okinawa,
Mm-hmm.
the invasion of Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
Which was Easter Sunday, 1945, was the invasion of Okinawa. And we went in on the, I don't know, 2nd or 3rd wave into the beach. And we got halfway in, they turned us around and brought us back to the ship. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. But what happened was the Japanese, Okinawa was a main island for years. the Japanese had built all kinds of embankments and crossfire machines on cannon, what have you, on one end of the island. We landed here, and they went right across the island, secured 2 airfields. So they figured there's something up.
Yeah.
So the rest of the troops that were coming in, which I was in, the wave I was in, they turned us around and went back to the ship. And then the following day we went ashore. And my first night was spent at an airfield along with the rest of my squad guarding planes, Japanese planes that were intact. They hadn't been hit with the shelling and everything. And they wanted to ship them back to the United States to study the makeup and everything. And I remember the first night we were there, and the guy, the sentry that was on duty, suddenly we heard, "Halt, halt, tamare." Tamare, I think that was the word for halt, tamare. They'd stop, then next thing you know, it'd start up again. Then kept going, would stop, and kept going, tamare, tamare. And with that, the sergeant on the watch at the time come out and said, "Open fire." So they opened fire. Next morning, there's a whole herd of goats. Dead, all slaughtered. But of course, you have to take care of them. So anyways, I stayed through Okinawa until the island was secured. Then we loaded up on the ship and we went up to Korea. And I was on Korea on occupation from August till following December. And then the end of December, I was shipped out. So I had put in like I was just 1 week short of 3 years in the Army. And came back to Fort Lewis, Washington, in the state of Washington, and then they shipped us back over to Devens, and from Devens, discharged. So that was, I was just shy of 1 week shy of 3 years. So I had a little tour of the Pacific.
Wow. How old were you when you were enlisted?
Let's see, I just turned 19.
Wow.
So I was in, as I say, just shy, one week shy of 3 years. It was very interesting. Of course, during that, everybody was involved. I mean, like back home, all the women were the ones who were running the factories, producing tanks and planes and the ammunition and everything. Without them, I don't know, where would we be? It was a interesting period of time, I have to say.
Thank you for sharing that, Papa.